The film opens with a brutal prologue set in 2017. A group of high-profile Korean criminals is being extradited from the Philippines via a commercial flight. As the criminals are led through the airport, a grieving victim of one of the convicts detonates a suitcase bomb, killing himself, 7 police officers, and dozens of innocent bystanders. This disaster forces the Korean government to change tactics. 5 years later, they commissioned the Frontier Titan, a massive reinforced cargo freighter to transport 47 of the most dangerous criminals from Manila to Busan in total secrecy. The mission is led by veteran detective Woo and a team of 20 hardened officers, including the sharp-eyed Lee Da-yeon. Among the cargo is Park Jong-doo, a flamboyant psychopathic serial killer covered in tattoos, and Lee Do-il, a young stoic man with a mysterious violent past who remains oddly silent throughout the boarding process. Once the ship hits international waters, the tension between the guards and the animals in the cages reaches a boiling point. Woo attempts to establish dominance by brutally beating Jong-doo, who simply laughs through a mouthful of blood. However, the police are unaware that Jong-doo's syndicate has already infiltrated the ship's crew. The uprising begins with cold surgical precision. Kim Gyu-tae, a cold-blooded killer posing as a crewman, begins slaughtering guards in the engine room and the control bridge. Jong-doo, who had hidden a lockpick inside a self-inflicted wound in his gums, frees himself and leads a mass breakout. The initial takeover is a splatter masterpiece. Jong-doo famously kills a detective by biting off the man's ear and spitting it onto the floor before finishing him. The convicts arm themselves with hammers, pipes, and stolen firearms, turning the ship's narrow corridors into a literal river of gore. Deep in the sub-basement of the freighter, a different story is unfolding. A medical team led by an unethical doctor is monitoring a heavily sedated, corpse-like figure stored in a pressurized room labeled experimental subject. This is Alpha, a genetically modified super soldier created by the Japanese during World War II-era human experiments. To keep Alpha in stasis, the doctor must routinely inject him with a green serum. As the riot above reaches its peak, the sheer volume of blood from the dead guards and convicts begins to leak through the floor grates of the ship. The blood drips directly onto the sedated Alpha, acting as a biological catalyst. He awakens violently, his eyes sutured shut, and his skin a sickly metallic gray. He immediately kills the doctors, crushing their skulls with his bare hands, and begins a slow, heavy-footed ascent through the ship. Alpha's movements are accompanied by a distinct clanking sound, because his bones have been reinforced with tungsten, making him virtually impervious to gunfire. The film takes a sharp tonal turn as Alpha enters the fray. He doesn't take sides, he views every human heat signature as a target. In a sequence of shocking subversion, the film's main antagonist, Jong-doo, is confronted by Alpha in the engine room. Despite his psychopathy and combat skills, he's utterly outmatched. Alpha rips off the killer's arm and uses a sledgehammer to cave in his skull, ending the serial killer's arc halfway through the movie. The remaining cops and criminals, including Da-yeon and the mystery man Do-il, are forced into a desperate temporary alliance. They realize that Alpha is a human weapon from the Kimono Project, a lobotomized killing machine that sees the world in infrared. The hallway fights shift from tactical gunplay to a horror survival struggle where the characters are hunted one by one. As the body count climbs toward 80, a tactical cleanup team from Aeon Genetics arrives via helicopter, led by the ruthless commander Dae-wong. It is revealed that the extradition was a front. The real purpose of the Frontier Titan was to transport Alpha back to Korea for further study. The commander is a stable version of the super soldier project he possesses, the same superhuman strength and healing factor as Alpha, but has retained his intellect and human appearance. The film's final secret is revealed when the commander recognizes Lee Do-il. Years ago, the commander had experimented on Lee Do-il and his family, killing Do-il's wife and attempting to harvest his son. Do-il had been a failed subject who somehow retained his humanity despite the genetic rewriting. The climax is a three-way superhuman brawl on the blood-slicked deck of the ship. Do-il finally unleashes his full power, moving with a speed and ferocity that matches the commander. While they fight, Alpha continues to massacre the Aeon tactical team. At one point, he uses a severed arm as a club to beat an operative to death. Do-il eventually kills the commander, seeking vengeance for his family, and manages to destroy Alpha by exploiting the monster's lack of true sight. As the ship is remotely scuttled by the Aeon Corporation to hide their crimes, it sinks into the Pacific Ocean. The film ends with Do-il washing up on a remote shore, the sole survivor of the massacre. In a haunting post-credits scene, it is revealed that Aeon Genetics is still operating in Southeast Asia, and they have captured Do-il's young son, whose eyes glow with the same unnatural light as the alpha, setting the stage for a cycle of violence that is far from over.